He's a professor for diplomacy and disarmament at the Jawaharlal Nehru University in New Delhi. Professor, welcome to our program. Now, the simple fact is about half of India's defense equipment is from Russia. Considering that reality, I would assume it will be very unlikely for India to heed America's call to reduce dependence on Russia. What is your take on this, Professor?
Thank you. There is no doubt that historically Russia has been the main supplier of India's defense equipment. But if we follow the experts who are calculating India's imports over a period of time, Stockholm Institute of International Peace Research talks about last 5 years, where gradually Russia's contributions to India's procurements have come down from 69 to 49%. And this is a result of India's diversification, where France, Israel, and United States today take second, third, and fourth positions of India's resources in terms of from where India procures defense equipment. So yes, India remains a great extent dependent on Russia, but that dependence has been reducing over a period of time.
All right. Overall, how India has had to walk that tightrope really in this conflict between Russia and Ukraine. Now, with pressure from the West, how would you analyze India's stance on the conflict, as well as criticism and pressure coming from the West? Has India had to put up some sort of gesture to satisfy, for example, the United States?
There is no doubt United States has been creating a whole hype of sanctions, economic sanctions on Russia, assuming that economic sanctions will make President Putin think differently. But of course, the reason for America's frustration, I would say, is that its own allies are not listening too much of it, because Russia's primary exports are energy. And if you look at the top 10 countries procuring energy from Russia, other than China, most of them are very close allies of United States. India doesn't even stand in the top 10 countries that are procuring oil and energy from Russia. So, in that sense, the United States sees the past when it was able to convince India to stop buying oil from Venezuela or Iran, and assumes that maybe it can really expect Delhi to follow its suggestion to stop buying oil. But India is extremely dependent on oil imports, which prices are fluctuating. We have old relationship with Russia. So if India is briefly increasing its procurements from Russia of its oil, which is still very small, as you mentioned, 13 million, and that is the kind of purchase I think China would do in 3 or 4 days on average. So it's a small amount of oil, but it's symbolic, and that perhaps disturbs the United States. But India has tried to explain its position. I think the US understands India's position, but it nevertheless keeps pushing India into sort of towing the American line, which has not happened so far. It's not likely. India stands to sustain its proactive neutrality, where it has focused on providing aid to people on the ground, ensuring that these presidents of Ukraine and Russia begin to talk to each other. And in that sense, Foreign Minister Wang Yi's visit to India had highlighted that there are areas where both China and India are contributing to see early cessation and early dialogue on Ukraine crisis. And in that sense, India's neutrality will make definitely some countries not the most happy with India's position, but India has so far stood firm on it, and India will stand firm on it.
All right, Professor.